I'm Reverend Ann Hines. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I am so delighted to be here with you this morning. Obviously, those who were here when I was here have forgotten my rule about not applauding. This old Episcopalian, you know. I was telling someone every morning for a couple of years now, during the pandemic, I guess, when I couldn't go hang out with people I normally would have and go to the movies and things like that, I started writing down in my journal every morning what I was looking forward to that day, because I wanted to make sure there was always something in the day that would be fun or interesting or exciting. And then I always ended with whatever, because of Anne Lamott's friend who said that her prayer in the evening was, oh, whatever. But I thought it should start out the morning, that I'm open to whatever. Anyway, this morning I wrote, I'm looking forward to seeing folks at Emerson. So thank you for being here, and thank you to those of you who are Zooming in. I offer you, as our call to worship, a prayer for those gathered in worship by my dear friend from seminary, Reverend Barbara Peskin. In this familiar place, listen to the sounds of breathing, creaking chairs, shuffling feet, clearing throats, and sighing all around. Know that each breath, movement, the glance meant for you or intercepted, holds a life within it. These are signs that we choose to be in this company, have things to say to each other, things not yet said, but in each other's presence, still trembling behind our heart's doors, these doors closed but unlocked. Each silent thing waiting on the threshold between unknowing and knowing, between being hidden and being known. Find the silence among these people and listen to it all. Breathing, sighs, movement, holding back. Hear the tears that have not yet reached their eyes. Hear also the laughter building deep where joy abides despite everything. Listen, rejoice, and say welcome. It is good to worship together.
Please rise in spirit or body for the lighting of our chalice and our covenant and opening hymn, which will be 128, For All That Is Our Life. These chalice lighting words are by Maureen Killeron. Love is the aspiration, the spirit that moves and inspires this faith we share. Rightly understood, love can nurture our spirits and transform the world. May the flame of this chalice honor and embody the power and the blessing of the love we need, the love we give, the love we are challenged always to remember and to share. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, thus do we covenant. La doctrina de esta iglesia es el amor, la búsqueda de la verdad es su sacramento, y el servicio es su solución. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar el conocimiento en libertad, servir a la humanidad en comunión. Este es nuestro pacto.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For sorrows we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
Good morning and welcome. We are happy that you are here in person and online. Emerson Unitarian Universalist Church is named after the Unitarian minister, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and we are a diverse religious community that has been a part of the West Valley for 70 years. I'm Melissa Marote, and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm honored to serve as your worship associate this morning. Before we begin, please take a moment to silence your phones, and thank you for wearing your mask as this is still cold and flu season. We welcome all of you to our service and hope that here at Emerson you'll feel encouraged to create change, to start transforming into a person who enjoys lifting up others and celebrating in the happiness and successes we see in our fellow humans. We also hope that through being a part of this community, you gain comfort through connection to our service today and during our coffee hour breakout rooms online and also after service. This month's theme is generosity, and as we hope that you can all work towards growing more generous in our daily lives. This morning, let us remember that the land we stand on is a traditional land of the Tongva, Kizh, Chumash, and Tatavian peoples, past and present. This land remains part of their enduring identity and heritage, and we recognize that these tribes are still here, and we are committed to honoring their stories, culture, and community. Please sign our guest book so that you can get on our email list to get more information about upcoming events and to strengthen your connections here. Also take a moment to write any joys or concerns in the chat or in our book of life near the piano if you want them shared later in the service. Today, our Minister Emerita, Reverend Ann Felton Hines, is preaching, and Reverend Matthew will return next Sunday. Reverend Ann is Emerson's Minister Emerita after serving here for almost 12 years. Since her official retirement in 2014, she's continued to serve congregations as Interim, Sabbatical, and Contract Minister, though she is now fully retired. She recently became president of the San Fernando Valley chapter of the ACLU and remains active in Brady United Against Gun Violence. We welcome you again, Ann Hines. We are so excited to hear what you have to say today. So after our service today, please stay after our coffee hour so that you can get to know everyone better. And now let's just take a few moments to greet our neighbors.
Hi, how you doing? Hey. Good. Too good. Yeah. I'm not sure if it, I don't know. Well, it must be doing something because so I have the psoriatic arthritis. Same as you, but just in my joints. And it's really been inflamed. So it's been really tough. Like, you didn't know, I'm sure you didn't notice, but there's certain things I have had a hard time doing on the piano because it's like hurting and it's just tight. So, so clearly it's ramping up my immune system, you know, since that's our problem. It's always the immune system. And, I don't know if it's working on the cancer yet, so it's too early. But I've only had one treatment, so I go in for my second treatment. It's only one every 21 days. So I go in for my second treatment on Wednesday, this Wednesday. So we'll see. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. So how's it going? Excellent. Is it? Really? Oh my gosh. I bet.
It's good to be together, and let's keep this going after the service. Also, I just wanted to make a quick note that the Song of Angels Flute Orchestra will be performing here this evening at 7 p.m., not 1:30. So there was a little snafu there, but it's going to be at 7 o'clock tonight, and if you've never seen the Song of Angels Flute Orchestra, you're in for a treat. It's really amazing. I highly recommend it. It's very breathtaking. Okay. Now we are ready for our story of all ages, which is actually going to be a video highlighting our theme for this month.
Giving a donation is like sharing love, you know? It's showing you care.
I've given these cookies out I don't even know how many times. They're like a secret weapon of mine.
I have been homeless a few times, and the one thing that I found was when I was able to find something that I could put on that was new, it lifted my spirits.
Have you ever given anything to someone that really made you feel happy?
Yeah, I've donated stuff to a shelter. I gave away my Nemo.
I like to give away food because I like to get food.
I remember this one time, this guy asked for money, and my dad said, no, I can't give you any money, but I can buy you something to eat. Then we got him something to eat. And then about 10, 15 seconds after, another person saw what my dad did and bought him another meal.
My fiance is Cuban, and she loves these little pastelitos from our favorite Cuban bakery. So I bought a bunch of them to give out. They're our favorite thing to give away. Everybody loves them.
I am going to give all these comforters and pillowcases.
A doll.
Summer maxi dress, great for the warm weather.
I know every gift comes from a store, but it really comes from the heart.
It's important to give because the world is unequal and unfair, and some people have more than other people.
If you don't give of yourself and try to do the best you can, then you're not fulfilling your life at all. You have to give to receive.
I think the really important thing about giving is to not have the expectation of getting something in return, because at that point you're not giving, you're like making a trade.
It just pays off because you see the rewards of your giving.
It makes me feel connected to like the rest of the universe in a way.
The more I give back, the more I get in life.
Anytime that I can share something of myself to help somebody out, it makes me feel good.
I come from a huge Italian family, and food is everything in our family, so that's why I like to bake for my friends and show them how much I care and just kind of give a piece of myself through my cooking.
But I love giving my heart.
Giving love
I had been experiencing financial trouble, and a friend of mine just sent me a check, and it was just like amazing.
Even tiny things change lives.
I brought some shoes that I have never worn, and they're brand new shoes, and I just grew out of them. Dino and a unicorn.
These are old shirts.
So I brought my best sweater. Hope somebody will be able to enjoy it.
It's my guardian angels that have gotten me through what I've gotten through. Somebody and something is given to me, and I want to give it back.
4 thumbs up.
And now let's do our UU affirmation. We are Unitarian, Universalist, a people of open minds, loving hearts, and welcoming hands. We are in the middle of our stewardship campaign, where we ask folks to make pledges for the upcoming church year, which you can do at pledge.emersonuuc.org. And as part of the stewardship campaign, I would like to invite Nicole Thibodeau to offer her testimonial about what this church means to her.
Good morning. And good morning. We usually don't get to see each other from this perspective. So, hello, Zoomies. Those are my people. I invite those of you in the room to turn around and locate the camera. We have 2 cameras. I don't think the people on Zoom can see the seats, but if you were to come up here before or after the service today, not before, but tomorrow, next week, and wave at the camera, the folks at home might see you waving. You can't actually see them, but I promise you they will feel seen. I'm Nicole, and my pronouns are she and Ayo. And the last time you saw me here in person on a Sunday morning was last June, when I came for the new member service. Both my spouse, Jim, and I are immune compromised and still live our lives in lockdown. Remember those days? That's why we are so appreciative that Emerson continues its multi-platform service here in person and here on Zoom. As a relatively new member to this community, I have been eager to connect and participate with so many meetings online, from the board meetings to the book discussion group. I have been able to get to know a lot of you. I'm also grateful for the continuation of Emerson's mask policy here in the sanctuary, which enables me to be here today. Your masking says the world to me about your welcome and about my value in this community. It can be difficult to get to know folks when in-person meetings are limited to one-on-one, masked, and out of doors. Fortunately, Jim and I have been able to go on hikes and meet folks in parks, and even garden with Reverend Matthew and Eric, for which we are grateful. Every little bit goes a long way to helping us connect with our community. One of the reasons we joined Emerson is for that connection, that acknowledgement that we are all interconnected and better together, even when that connection is physically distanced. I have come to recognize Emerson as a community that is willing to invest, whether it is in Zoom technology, in solar panels, its garden, or its people. I have seen evidence of Emerson's commitment to invest in things that last and perpetuate a return that goes beyond finances. No one can be expected to give what they don't have, financial or otherwise. At the same time, it can be hard to stand by inactive when your community puts out a call. Last year, when Jim and I officially signed the book, we were unable to pledge due to the film industry strikes. Fortunately, there were other ways we could contribute: hosting the Sunday Zoom online, assisting on the website and the Google Drive, to name just a few. We are pleased to also be able to contribute financially this coming year, but we know it is not our only contribution, and it is probably not our greatest contribution. Thank you for being our welcoming community, and I will see you on Zoom.
Thank you so much, Nicole. One of the ways that we live out our values of generosity is by sharing the collection plate. This month we are sharing the plate with the Tangva Tarahat Pavharva Conservancy, which roughly translates to the people's land. The Conservancy is a land trust that stewards the first land collectively owned by the Tangva tribe in almost 200 years, giving the Tangva access to gathering space for community time and ceremonies, and to revitalize culture, language, and traditional land stewardship. This offering is a small way for our congregation to acknowledge the history of this land and to contribute to its healing, to support the ancestral hosts of this land, present-day Tangva people, and to create a vibrant future. You can donate online via the Breeze mobile app or donate.emersonuuc.org and select Sunday offering. If you are writing a check, please make it out to Emerson UUC or EUUC and write "Share the Plate" in the memo. Our generous offerings will now be gratefully received.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Let's take a moment to anchor. Uncross your legs, get comfortable. Soften your gaze or close your eyes. Breathe in through your nose. Hold that breath for a moment and breathe out through your mouth. Relax the little muscles around your jaw, your eyes. Relax your shoulders. Feel your sit bones sinking into your chair. Feel the earth under your feet. Take another breath. What are two things you can hear in this moment? What are you noticing? Breathe in and relax. Every one of us is a part of a web of life that makes us one with all humanity, one with all the universe. We are grateful for this connection as it strengthens us all. Each week we share our joys and concerns, and you can write them in the chat as well. There is nothing in the virtual book of life. And Eric Schmidt writes, I hope everyone takes a bunch of our fresh-cut veggies and greens from our church garden. So there's a plentiful amount out there. Some sorrows are too painful to speak aloud. If you're holding someone in your heart this morning and you would like to send them healing energy and loving kindness, you can write their name in the chat, or you can call out their name after I ring the singing bowl. May the arms of this community hold us. May the love and compassion we experience here ripple out beyond these walls, touching all who are in need.
I must apologize for forgetting to remask myself after my call to worship and then wandering around hugging you all without my mask. Now I can't find it. So, is it underneath here? Okay, thank you. I'll try to remember. Anyhow, if you see me afterwards without it. I'll get it for you. Okay, thank you. So nice to be taken care of. I offer you this slide-out adaptation of a meditation by another friend of mine who I happened to meet actually during the pandemic. I've never met her in person. We are in a Zoom group for retired ministers that got started during the pandemic. But she's a wonderful writer and now a good friend, even if only virtually. Let us give thanks for the symphony of this community, for the basic melodies, the straightforward arrangements of notes, always leading in the direction we need to go, for the creative soloists, transforming imagination into vision and helping the possible become real, for the counterpoint, those tones that speak with independent voice, tempting us out of our complacency. For the pastoral passages, measures calling us to peaceful introspection, luring us to the wisdom that dwells in the depths of every soul. And for the voices of requiem, which bring us the tones of remembrance for what has gone before. Let us give thanks for this community as we give thanks for a work of music. We feel uplifted by its particular note, which is your note, perhaps, your special gift. It is a rich blend of voices that gather here in community. The music would have less meaning without every one of you.
If you see your brother standing by the road with a heavy load from the seeds he sowed, if you see your sister falling by the way, just stop and say, you're going the wrong way. You got to try a little kindness, show a little kindness, shine your light for everyone to see. And if you try a little kindness, you'll overlook the blindness of narrow-minded people on the narrow-minded streets. Don't walk around the down and out. Lend a helping hand instead of doubt. And the kindness that you show every day will help someone along their way. You've got to try a little kindness, show a little kindness, shine your light for everyone to see. And if you try a little kindness, you'll overlook the blindness of narrow-minded people on the narrow-minded streets. Try a little, got to try a little kindness, show a little kindness, shine your light for everyone to see. And if you try a little kindness, you'll overlook the blindness of the narrow-minded people on the narrow-minded streets.
Thank you for that. That was really beautiful and delightful and everything. Thank you. And perfect for today. Well, really perfect for every day. Congratulations! Today is our day. We're off to great places. We're off and away. We have brains in our heads. We have feet in our shoes. We can steer ourselves any direction we choose. We'll look up and down streets, look 'em over with care. About some we will say, well, I don't choose to go there. With our head full of brains and our shoes full of feet, we're too smart to go down any not-so-good street. And when things start to happen, we won't worry or stew. We'll just go right along. We'll start happening too. Those slightly adapted words by Theodore Geisel, better known simply as Dr. Seuss, were how I began my very first sermon here as Emerson's settled minister back in 2002. As you probably know, the words are from his children's book, Oh, the Places You'll Go, which was the title I used for that first sermon, only I changed you to we, the places we'll go. I thought it appropriate to steal that title for my sermon. Whether it was ethical or even legal is another entire matter. As those of you who were members then were embarking on this new adventure with me, one that was both exciting and fearful. Indeed, I stole parts of the book shamelessly throughout the entire first sermon because it really worked. It could have worked just as well when the founding members of Emerson were starting out, Maybe that moment in 1954 when 5 families decided that, yes, they would continue meeting in someone's home every Sunday until they could find a suitable space to rent. They could have used Dr. Seuss's words when they received the approval from the American Unitarian Association to be an official Unitarian congregation. This was before the merger with Universalists. That, indeed, might have been one of those gulp moments, can we really do this? Or when they first signed their names to in that big membership book, to be members and vowed to pledge some of their hard-earned money to make this work. All of those moments 70 years ago might have held both excitement and anxiety for them. I imagine they felt they were off to great places, while at the same time knowing that there were plenty of not-so-good streets they could mistakenly go down. They simply had to trust that among them they had enough heads full of brains and shoes full of feet, hopefully cute shoes, to be able to steer themselves in the right direction. I delivered a sequel to that first sermon on my final day preaching here before retiring, in which I told a once-upon-a-time story about a small congregation of Unitarian Universalists in a tiny village called Canoga Park. In that sermon, I recounted many of the great accomplishments of the early Emersonians that Reverend Matthew and Tracy Watson mentioned in their service last Sunday. That final sermon of mine recalled some other early accomplishments as well. This congregation worked early on with the Fair Housing Council to open up housing in, before then, restricted areas, to open those areas up to people of color and religious minorities. And they rented space to one of the very first Head Start preschools, long before we again returned to having Head Start rent space from us here. During the Vietnam War, Emerson provided a conscientious objection program for teenage boys who were skeptical about signing up for that war. And during our country's support of dictatorships in Central America, this congregation adopted a family from El Salvador and gave them sanctuary in the church, providing them safety from deportation. But there were also many challenges to overcome. I think it was the first settled minister at Emerson who had his house firebombed because of his involvement with fair housing. Later, someone started a fire in the sanctuary because of the controversial subject of one of the guest preachers. It may have been Bob Kaufman. I think he was speaking in support of Cuba or Fidel Castro. There was the earthquake that destroyed your beloved old building that had so many nooks and crannies offering creative spaces for adults and youth alike. And there was the unexpected departure of a very well-loved minister that left many of you bewildered and bereft for a long time after my arrival. Indeed, before 2002, no minister had stayed with Emerson for more than 5 years. The average throughout its history prior to then had been a 2.5-year stint, which I hadn't even realized until after I had accepted your invitation to be your minister and signed the contract. Maybe a good thing that I hadn't realized that. Not surprisingly, by the time I arrived in 2002, the word perseverance was the one expressed most often in describing yourselves, and the stories often shared were those of crises you'd overcome. We persevere through crises was your motto. So I said on that first Sunday that I would have only one rule: No more talk of past crises. You've had enough of those, I said. Instead, I suggested we speak only of opportunities and possibilities as we moved forward together, and that's what we did. We decided to change the way we looked at finances, perceiving ourselves not as a church of scarcity, but one of abundance and generosity, just as you're speaking today during your pledge campaign. We even began using language at one point like tithing, not expecting that anyone could pledge 10% of their income, though a couple of members did, as I recall, but also no longer just assuming that the most any UU congregation could hope for from its members was the traditional 2%. Though, of course, we were grateful for those who were able to give and especially increase whatever amount they could. Because of this shift in our perspective, we were able finally to hire much-needed staff, a DRE, and an office administrator instead of relying on the generosity of overworked volunteers. We were already paying a pianist, but eventually we began paying our volunteer choir director. What a concept. And once he retired, we hired another one, and then another. Our generosity, your generosity, continued to expand in our community outreach and our peace and social justice advocacy. We held free art classes for the children and youth of Canoga Park. When the Iraq War broke out, this congregation was instrumental in holding weekly interfaith peace vigils on the corner of Topanga Canyon and Victory Boulevards. That first vigil had over 100 people in attendance, and almost all of them were from Emerson. Those vigils may have lasted until the war ended. I actually don't remember. But I do remember that we had to move from that corner at some point a few blocks further south because of the very aggressive and scary counter-protesters that came across the street from us. And I remember that those vigils continued because of the dedication of a small group of Emerson members that showed up every time. Another project of Emerson was a street corner ministry for day laborers, where we'd offer hot coffee and pastries. Most of those spoke no Spanish, and most of us spoke no Spanish, and they no English. But that didn't matter. They knew they had the love and support of this congregation, and for that, I know they were grateful. We also hosted some interfaith forums occasionally for clergy addressing the issue of gun violence prevention. And I remember how grateful those clergy were for a congregation that would speak up for reasonable gun controls. For the first time in its history, Emerson became a teaching congregation with our student intern, Sharra Lawal. I know it was a beautiful experience for us as well as for her. She now has a very successful ministry at the UU Fellowship of Boise, Idaho, going on now 10 years. Emerson was an integral part of her growing into ministry. Since those first families in 1954 decided they wanted a Unitarian congregation closer to home, Emerson has gone many places, metaphorically speaking, and through it all, you have shown fearlessness when others might have backed down, and always a dedication to peace in our world and justice in our nation. We are now living in a time when our democracy, especially when justice for those who live on the margins, has never been more threatened. I was talking with some friends just last night about how bleak things seem to be in our country, even though there have certainly been periods in our nation's history of terrible violence and injustice. Never have we faced the very real possibility of authoritarianism and Christian nationalism holding the highest position in America. It is a time when the fearlessness and compassion and determination of such a church as Emerson is needed more than ever before. And I am heartened by all the work you continue to do in that direction, focusing on racial justice and on climate justice, two such important issues. Helping to get people out to vote, essential this year. And of course, your continued support of the West Valley Food Pantry. I'm very excited. I was excited to listen to last week's service and hear of the possibility that Emerson might be able to serve as an alternate distribution site, if I understood that correctly, on Saturdays when the West Valley Food Pantry is closed. There's also talk of participating as a congregation at Valley Pride. Oh my, the places you continue to go. When I look at you and hear of all the things you've done and are still doing, I am so proud to have served you for those 12 years and now to be your minister emerita. I am grateful and humbled by it. Now, after 8 years of serving you, Reverend Matthew will be moving on to a new ministry, and so will you. I know that this can feel like a sad time for some of you, especially for those of you who have never known any ministry other than Reverend Matthew's. He very possibly is the reason you first joined Emerson. But he would be the first to say that he is not the church. No one minister is the church. A church or synagogue or mosque or temple is the people who make up its congregation. Emerson UU Church would be nothing, zilch, without you. We religious leaders are important. I would never suggest you trying to go without one. I want to make that clear. But we're not what makes it work. You are. So now you will go through the process of finding a transition minister for the next year or two. And during that time, with the help of field staff from the Unitarian Universalist Association, you'll explore who you are now as a congregation, the places you've been, and where you want to go in order to help your eventual search committee find the perfect minister to be your next settled minister. Except, of course, there is no perfect minister. I want to make that clear, too. But you'll find the one who will want to grow with you and go with you to places both familiar and brand new. For now, you can grieve the loss of Reverend Matthew, but also celebrate the ministry you've shared with him and wish him well as he embarks on his next journey. In last Sunday's service, Tracy mentioned me as being the catalyst for her becoming, she's, I think, looking a little horrified right now, catalyst for her becoming more involved at Emerson, that before I became your minister, she'd tended to come to church only for herself, you know, if she had the energy or had nothing else better to do on a Sunday morning. She'd apparently heard me say in a sermon that one needed to come to church on Sundays for each other. And then she added, Reverend Ann was really good at guilt. Now, I must admit that when I first heard her say that about me, I was surprised. Me? Good at guilt? And then a little hurt, And it didn't help, frankly, when everyone laughed as if in recognition. Oh, yeah, that's Reverend Ann, really good at guilt. But immediately the hurt disappeared. Oh, well, I thought, whatever works. And I would do it all again. She then gave a lovely testimonial about the many good things that have gone on here at Emerson and why she supports it with both her time and her financial resources. She ended her words by saying, "It's not about me, it's about all of us." Tracy has always been very wise. Your rich blend of voices are what makes this congregation one that ministers will want to come and serve, just as I wanted to and just as Reverend Matthew wanted to. You are kind, fearless, dedicated to justice, and you are fun. And that last one is just as important as all the other attributes. Keep having fun as you shine your beacon of hope and healing for all to see. So congratulations. Today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. You have brains in your heads. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourselves in any direction you choose. So for goodness sake, start on your way. May it always be so. Amen. And now I think we're going to stand as your bodies are willing and able and join in singing our closing hymn, which, let it be a dance.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the word, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like the willow in the wind, let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Let the laughter hear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
To extinguish our chalice this morning, I offer you this blessing from the Black Rock Prayer Book. The world is now too dangerous and too beautiful for anything but love. So as we extinguish the flame of our chalice, may our hearts be so opened, so set on fire, that our love, yours and mine, changes everything. Let us go now in peace and with passion. Shalom, salam, namaste, alleluia, and a very happy Passover to all those who celebrate it. Amen.